All
Hey,
right. I guess we're live now. Welcome everybody to the Late Night Con Nightmares panel. Um, I am your host, ChocoPony. You guys might know me early days staffing cons and con history stuff. Con nightmares are something that I guess we all share some connection with. This is a panel that if we did it at BabsCon or at Windy City, it would be a late night drinking panel. So before we begin, I want to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and the drink that they have on screen. I don't drink alcohol, so I have Baja Blast with me. Hopefully, this should keep me all energetic. And with that, let me introduce you to all the panelists for this panel. So let's start with Simul, since you're my co-host normally.
Sure. My name is Simul or Cole. People call me one or the other interdependently. Doesn't really matter to me. I am the chair for Everfree Northwest. Here's where I would have said 2020, but I guess it's also 2021 now. Also, you might know me from BronyCon. I was the mascot actor for Hoofbeats for 5 years, from 2015 all the way up until it ended.
And what are you drinking?
I have some Widmer Heffy right here, which I have to hold this like in front of me or the green screen doesn't really work so well, but that's what I got.
All right, Midnight, you're up next.
Howdy. Is my audio coming through?
Yes, it sounds good.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm MidnightPremiere. I have staffed at as many cons as I could get my hands on for the past 2 years, I think, starting with BronyCan, their last one, and continuing on till the last BronyCon and Ciderfest, BabsCon. Yeah, I draw horses, and my drink of choice is an empty Coke can that I need to replace.
All right, nice. Charlie, you're up next.
Hey everybody, my name is Charlie Worthley. I am I have for the last several years been the con chair for Ponyville Ciderfest, Windy City PonyCon, MLP, MSPF, and I've staffed a few other cons. And yay! And then I am drinking a selection of pumpkin beers because I am a craft beer nerd and I love me some pumpkin beers in the fall. So I have 4 ready to go for the next hour. I probably won't drink them all, but hey, who knows? So I've got Elysian Night Owl Pumpkin Ale, Elysian Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout, Elysian The Great Pumpkin Imperial Pumpkin Ale, and Elysian Punkachino Coffee Pumpkin Ale. Yay for pumpkin beers, yay.
Yay.
You know, you can just drink coffee, right?
Except no, because I don't want
That's
to
morning drink.
already.
That's morning drink. This is nighttime. Nighttime is the right time for beer.
All right, Screw Loose, you're up.
Hi. You've ever been in a vendor hall at any of the Charlie cons, you may have met me. I go by Screw Loose. I have been privy to many of shenanigans at these conventions, and I'm the embroidery guy. I am drinking. This is coffee and some what do you call it? What's that called?
Kahlua?
Alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Right. And last but not least, Bolt, you're up.
Hi everyone, I am Bolt. You might know me from various conventions such as BabsCon, staff for BronyCan before, currently on staff for Vancouver Pony Expo, staffed a lot of conventions around the West Coast, and including a furry convention and a couple of anthrocons as well. Currently on staff for Vancouver Pony Expo and BabsCon. I had something in my mind and I don't know what to say now. But I also DJ once in a while.
What's your
All
drink?
right.
Oh, my drink of choice is try to stay on brand here. I got the Brony IPA.
All right, perfect.
Nice.
All right, everybody. So here's the deal. This is a Con Nightmares panel I've always wanted to do because every time I see a Con Nightmares panel, I'm like, that's actually not a Con Nightmare. That's a problem that could have been easily solved if you guys knew exactly what to do. So to make this one fun and interesting, we're going to play loose with some of our stories. We're going to start from our perspective of stories, some of our stories we have as con staffers, then some of our stories as attendees from cons. Then we'll like to have audience input to see if there's any stories that you guys were interested in hearing us talk about. The gimmick for this specific panel is, since some cons don't like it when you talk about them, some cons like to pretend everything is nice and happy behind the scenes. To protect the identities of these cons, we are not going to name any single con, though it might be obvious in the case of Charlie and Simul. But if any of our, so here's the rules. If any of our panelists name a con by accident, I'm going to hit this buzzer, and then the next panelist is going to take over. So that's the rule. You guys could talk about anything you want. It could be horrible. It could be funny. Just don't name the con. So to get started, since Simul and I, we've been to a bunch of different cons. And since Simul, you're kind of stuck as chair for Everfree for 2 years now. We're not going to talk about Everfree. We're not going to name which con we're going to talk about. But from your experience, what interesting story do you have as staff for a con?
I mean, let's see. I have been staffing cons in some capacity, uninterrupted since 2013. My first con, PonyCon, that I attended was Everfree 2012, and then I came back to staff that the next year, and then I started staffing BronyCon in 2015. So I guess I've got a decent collection of interesting moments here. I'll start with one that I told last PonyFest. So some people might already be familiar with this, but this is from my time as a mascot. So I wonder what con that might have been. But in any case, first year I ever did it, and I'm kind of nervous about stuff. You know, is everything going to go well? And I had some other stuff going on kind of behind the scenes that just had me in an off mood. But I wake up on day one of con to go to opening ceremonies because, you know, I'm supposed to be involved with that. But I'm feeling just kind of off and like a little queasy maybe. But I figure, okay, it's all right. It's just nerves. I'll get over it. I put my whole costume on. I proceed to head down the hallway of the hotel. And then I start realizing, oh, I'm going to throw up now. So whatever was going on, it was just making me feel very horribly. And I had to run back to my room and throw up and then make it to the main stage before opening ceremonies would begin. And what ended up happening, and again, I did tell this story last time, so some of you guys in the chat probably already remember this, but what ended up happening was my stomach didn't settle. They ended up calling up one of the staff medics for me, which, by the way, is super cool. I haven't seen many pony cons that have like professional EMTs serving in that capacity, which is really neat. And big thanks to those guys, of course. But they said, like, look, you're probably okay. If you feel like you're not up to it, like, we'll skip it. I'm like, no, the show must go on. And what ended up happening is we would go up on stage, do our thing. Hey, welcome to such and such con. We don't know what con I'm talking about, but we do. Have a good time, do whatever. And then I would come off stage, throw up in the trash, and it would be rinse, repeat. Go up on stage, say more lines, come off stage, throw up in the trash, go up on stage, say more lines, come down, throw up in the trash. And then after opening, I ended up staying for about an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes or so in the infirmary. So that was a less fun memory. I mean, it's laughs in retrospect, but that whole the show must go on attitude, it's kind of something that I tend to be stubborn about, but officially, I cannot recommend doing that. That is not something that you should do. If you feel like you're having that sort of problem where you're extremely sick, don't go up on a stage. I shouldn't have done that, but it was my first time. I didn't want to screw it up. So that's my.
Sorry, this is my first time hearing this story. Did you ever figure out like what it was?
I honestly think it was just nerves. I've had something similar to that happen once before when I was in middle school, and it was the first time I was ever in a school play. So it might have just been something like that. Yeah, because it resolved itself afterwards. I was in the infirmary for a bit, and then it just went away, and I was able to enjoy the rest of the day, no problem. But then the next year, they had new room signs for all the rooms, and one of them was hoofbeats like wrapped in bandages, and I like to think that that's a subtle reference.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Who wants to take the next story? Charlie, how about you?
Sure. So probably I've got there's certainly a couple nightmares that I could talk about. Nothing that like involved me directly, like Simul's story, but I mean like Winnie City has had a bomb threat. Winnie City has had like a couple instances like that. I won't talk about those because those are just like the result of like shitty people being shitty. But probably like the like probably like my biggest horror story that I can think of off the top of my head is Cider Fest 15. This was my first year being on staff for Cider Fest,
Okay.
and I was vice chair. And like I'm like so incredibly green, and I'm just like I'm Mr. Vice Chair. I'm gonna do all these things. I'm gonna fix all these things. I'm just gonna make this con great. And then like it's Saturday night, and we're like up at like the VIP event, like up in the at the time I think it was might have been still called the View or the Polaris, turn in the View, whatever. And then all of a sudden we just get over the radio.
Oh, I think people are mentioning in the chat that I should buzz you because you named a con,
Call.
but
It's my own con.
you have
That's
an
the thing,
interesting
how are we gonna
story.
avoid it?
I am letting you go because you have an interesting story. So
How are we
continue.
supposed to avoid it?
I'm talking about my own. Yeah. Choco, it's your panel, your rules, but personally, I don't give a crap if anybody mentions any horror stories at my con. So, like, if you're willing to allow it, entirely up to you.
There's
Go
no
ahead.
really?
con that doesn't
the
have
corgi events are
My
free
horror stories, I've
game.
never been there.
Oh,
Any of the-
really?
Any of the corgi cons are fair game as far as I'm concerned. But I digress. So we're up at the event, and all of a sudden I get a call over the radio. The power has gone out in main events. Like just completely, absolutely no power whatsoever. And like everybody's panicking. So like, cause like this was like the concert's supposed to start, I guess like some breaker tripped or whatever.
Yeah.
And me, it's like, I don't know the first thing, like not even like the first part of the first thing about how to possibly approach a problem like fixing the electricity in like a ballroom at a hotel to make like the concert happen. No idea whatsoever. But of course, I'm just like, I'm gonna go down there and fix this. Corey, bless his heart, like put his hand on my shoulders, just like, you can't help. You'll just get in the way. Just stop. Let them handle it. And like one way or another, it'll be fine. I'm freaking out because like it's my first con, and yada yada yada. But Corey's like, just calm down. It'll be okay. And he was right in that it was okay eventually. It took like an hour to get the power back on. Like they had to, I don't know exactly what they had to do because I wasn't down there for it, but thanks to Sleepy Pony, who many of you might know, I think from Ponyville FM, if my memory is working correctly.
Yeah.
And then Larsis, who was our AV head at the time, who kind of were like the I think like if my memory is correct, and it could be wrong, and I'm sorry if it's wrong, but they were like the two people that I kind of helped, like were like led getting the problem fixed and whatever. And then also thanks to the shakeups in Ponyville that put on an acoustic concert for an hour in the lobby outside of main events while this was happening, so that everybody could be entertained and not pissed off that the concert was an hour late. But just from my perspective, just like feeling completely helpless up in like this room that when all these people are upset and everything. So that's like my biggest horror story as far as I can think of. Just any sort of situation where just like something is very, very, very wrong and you are completely unable to help any of it. So that's mine.
But it's so great that people like in these events tend to be so understanding about that kind of thing too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's never like no one's gonna get mad, generally speaking. I mean, it can happen, but like attendees for sure are very understanding.
Yeah, it definitely could have been a lot worse than it was, but yeah, thanks to everybody that was involved, and yeah, it definitely. Yeah. So, anyways, that's mine. And of course, the bomb threats on Winnie City were not fun either. But yeah, I could go on for a while about those in a very different.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't call in
don't do that.
Bomb threats to cons, please.
Don't do that. Get some help.
Please and thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Midnight. How about you? I know you had some crazy stories. So, which one do you want to pick first?
Well, let's see. The one that is coming to mind right now is a slightly smaller convention. It was one that I had never gone to before. And it was very exciting because I was going with two friends of mine, two people that I knew, and the rest of the people were, in my mind, practically strangers. So we weren't expecting to make a lot of money. It was more of a, oh, this is a glorified hangout. Let's go have fun. Which kicked off really well because on the day before, Thursday, right after we had set up, I passed out.
Ooh.
I don't know why, but we were just sitting down. We were just having some food. I'm nodding along with my friends, and then suddenly I start going, "Oh, bonk!"
Yike.
I don't know what was happening, but okay, this is weird. It's fine. Let's keep going. I don't want to, we came all the way out here. We're not gonna screw up the meeting. That night, one of my friends gets sick, and he's sick throughout the entire weekend, so he can no longer participate. We had sectioned off our booths to kind of share some space, but he was sick, so that was it. He was gone for the whole weekend, and my other friend was on the other side of the vendor hall, so I never got to see her. I spent my time in the vendor hall a little dizzy because my neighbors on both sides had these beautiful scented soap stands. And when I say scented, it was scented like bacon. And on the second day, everything smelled of alcohol, rubbing alcohol.
Ooh.
Very strong and very pungent and all over. So it was just ramming my senses. And after, I don't know if it was, if I was still feeling it after passing out, but I was just standing, in this room full of practical strangers, completely just wishing for, okay, at least if I have a customer, I can talk to them, I can have a conversation, I can normalize myself, get oriented. So, okay, this customer comes up who's looking for a conversation. That's really cool. That's my favorite thing. So I start engaging him in a conversation, and he starts talking about this author, his favorite author of all time, who does these beautiful comics. And slowly he starts getting more and more detailed. And I don't realize until it's too late that he starts wrapping me in a conversation about war. Hardcore, all kinds. Starts explaining the dictionary to me. A stranger, a complete stranger. So there he is, and I timed it too at one point. It lasted for over 40 minutes. I was standing there with bacon, the scent of bacon. I still dream about that smell. It's associated.
I dream of bacon.
I dream
Same
of
TBH.
bacon soap. And rubbing alcohol. It was incredible. I mean, it was like, a movie scene where everything kind of slows down and you're just locking eyes with this one person who's telling you about this crazy comic about war, and there was a sheriff and some guy killed someone from a bridge.
Oh, wait,
and
war? I thought you said war.
No.
That's even worse. Okay.
I heard war too. So this is just taking a turn for several of us, I think.
It just got way more interesting. Keep going. Sorry.
40 more minutes of, just war. Oh, yeah, it was insane. I thought that, I was in a dream of some kind. And afterwards, I'm thinking, okay, I can't wait to tell my friends. This is never going to happen again. So I start leaving. And I meet this other guy. I think we were bystanders at waiting for food or something. And he turns to me, very excited, hands me his business card and says, "Hey, have you heard of Bad Dragon?" Starts another conversation about this alternative website and this alternative, methods of just how they make different molds and things. Needless to say, I was very scared and never went back to that convention again. The end.
Wow.
I don't. What is wrong with people?
Yeah. Just a tip: if you're going to a con and you're meeting someone that you look up to, or just if you're meeting anyone, common sense, especially in public.
40 minutes is rookie numbers.
Ooh.
I'm kidding.
Oh, mid-prem.
One up me, Bolt. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, do it.
All right, Bolt, how about you up next?
Sure. I was actually just busy cropping this image because it kind of goes with the story. So at a certain convention north of the United States, which kind of narrows it down a little bit.
Does it have anything to do with your shirt?
Yeah.
No, it is the. Can I say it's the predecessor to my shirt?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so you know which one I'm talking about. Am I allowed to say the year? So, okay,
Continue.
cool. 2017. I am PR staff for this convention, and I'm helping them with their Twitter throughout the weekend. And so I start making posts on day 0. The stage is set up, and I was like, "Oh, this looks great!" And they had all the lights on. It looked beautiful. I was like, "I'm gonna take a picture of this and say, the stage is all set. We'll see you tomorrow." So I take the picture and I post it. And I don't really think twice about it until I look back about a half hour, an hour later. I was like, I'll see how many likes it gets. And I got some comments about it. Now, I didn't post directly to Twitter. I used an app called Hootsuite, which is what the convention used at the time. Hootsuite didn't exactly get along with my Samsung Galaxy S6. And I guess Twitter does some correction thing that Hootsuite didn't do when it took my photo and it posted it. Because I started getting comments like, "Oh, the convention moved to Australia," because the photo posted upside down.
And sweet user, been there.
Yeah. And okay, good. It's not just my phone, because they're like, "Oh, it must be your phone. It doesn't happen for the rest of us."
You were holding it upside down when you posted it, is what?
Yeah, that was it. And so it was like that for the rest of the convention. Like I'm on the one hand, I really want to help update Twitter and take pictures and video because there's so much stuff going on that I want to post. But on the other hand, I know some of it's going to end up upside down. And about half of our photos ended up upside down that year. And I was like, okay, let's make some narrative up about this. Let's say Derpy took one of our cameras and started taking pictures and posting them, and we'll just run with that. And so he ran with that. And by the time the weekend came to a close, basically the whole weekend, I was thinking I want to find some derpy cosplayer, fursuit, or something to hold the camera, hold the camera upside down, and so we can post it and say, "Oh, we found Derpy." Sunday of the convention, the last day, I found a Derpy cosplayer, the only one I saw all weekend long. She looked like she was 12. So her dad was there, and I asked her dad, "Hey, I explained to him the whole situation. I said, would this be okay?" I had my staff shirt on, staff badge. I was easy to identify as staff. I said, "Is that okay?" He turned to his daughter and said, "Well, what do you think?" And she eagerly said yes. And so I have this camera that I borrowed from my mom. I gave it to her. I said, "You just hold it upside down and look like you're taking a picture with it." About the time I was going to take a picture with my phone and take it of her, the camera screen turned off. And with that, I got this like really adorable picture that I am posting to Neural Net Stage right now. And that ended up being like one of the best things I've ever captured.
Oh,
that is super cute.
That is really cute.
That's precious. All right, perfect. Screw Loose, how about you?
Oh boy. Okay. Hi. So let me tell you. There are two very distinct situations that stick out in my mind. Are we getting buzzard if the convention's dead?
Let's just say yes, just for fun, but maybe you could give hints about it.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So this happened 2016 or 2017, I believe. And what happened was this actually happened over a span of 3 days. So when I was head of this convention's vendor hall, at the beginning, there are when you apply to a vendor hall, there are contracts signed. There are things that you need to do to deals made from the convention and where they're holding the convention. Now, the years passed. The convention paid for amenities for the vendors. One of which was paying for the union to move the vendors' stuff from the dock to their booths. Now, what wasn't this was not expressed to me when I had taken over that position, and the last of the day comes rolling around, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh hell, there's going to be a lot of money people are going to be having to pay." I'm like, "No, it's going to be fine. Going to be fine." And last day comes around, and we start handing out the bills. To say that there were some that were a little bit ired would be a understatement. I was looking at a almost riot's too far, but I saw people sharpening their pitchforks, just dousing their torches, just getting ready to riot. It all ended up okay at the end, but in the end of that situation, the first time in my life, I used my dad voice. I used the voice of like commanding of the situation, because there were some individuals making some very rude comments to my deputy at the time, and I had never drawn this voice out, and it just like snapped in. But the moral of this story is, don't panic. Don't panic. And always carry a clipboard, because nobody ever stops you if you're carrying a clipboard and just command and just being confident. The other situation happened at a After Dark vendor hall. And I'll keep this one rather short and really kind of vague. There was some art that was not kosher. And I mean, if it's an After Dark vendor hall, it has to be kind of, I don't want to say what it was, but you really don't want to see this. And unfortunately, a VIP saw it. I had myself and the management above me worked very quickly to smooth this all over. The moral of that story is always vet your vendors. Always vet your vendors, because otherwise it'll come to bite you in the ass.
And that's actually why I say maybe we shouldn't name cons for this panel, because I actually like the con. I was there, and I like that con, and I don't want that story getting out about that con. The thing about you using your dad voice too, I found myself after graduating military academy, the only time I had to use my cadet officer voice again was running a vendor hall. So that is very true right there.
It's really fun to command a situation, just to take hold of the situation, and you're just like, everyone calm the F down.
All right.
Well, and let's be nice.
I guess everyone start thinking about what story you want to tell about your perspective from a con you weren't staffing at, while I quickly tell my staff story. So this is a con that was happening. It was the first year for this con. I was the head of design for this convention, and surprisingly, the nightmare did not have to do with any design stuff, even though there's a lot of design nightmares for this con. So I get to the hotel, and I find out that the chair isn't there, the vice chair isn't there, and the vendor lead isn't there. And based on how this con is structured, I guess the chain of command was alphabetical. So after all the other department heads were gone, head of design, I was next on that command list. That was completely fine because half these people I trained how to run a con to begin with. So it was easy for me just to fill in as temporary chair and vendor lead. Now, the issue was when we had two IDW artists come into the vendor hall looking for their table and realize one of their tables was taken. In fact, the table that they were given a prime table in the front of the vendor hall where it would have easy access for the lines to come in through the front door. Yet another vendor, who I'm not going to name, already had their giant booth set up there, and we couldn't touch it because if we did, we didn't want them to complain about it. So I had to sit with these IDW artists in the middle of this empty vendor hall for half an hour before I figured out, oh, I'm the one who's temporarily running this con, while we were all trying to find out who was in charge of the vendor hall. So we were able to get the IDW artists another table, and that should have been fine. The next morning, the vendor who took their tables ran down, went up directly to me, pointed at me and said, "How dare you guys touch my stuff? You guys broke whatever I had." And we were like, "We didn't even touch your stuff, and you shouldn't have this table to begin with." Needless to say, this person ended up being banned from any vendor hall I ran afterwards, and I think he has a negative reputation in the pony fandom. But yeah, so just thinking I'll be head of design for a con, it'll be great. Ended up having to run that con for the first night. So crazy story right there.
I just want to say I look forward to the after panel chat about some of these stories. Just
Right. Yeah. The juicy
I was
stuff
thinking
that
the same.
the panel doesn't get to have.
I think all of us, we were able to do a round of stories within half an hour. This is a hour and a half panel. So I think if we could keep the next round within another half hour, that'd be great. And then I guess we'll open up to Q&A and maybe take prompts from the audience.
Yeah, prompts would be great.
And I think the order we took was good. So maybe we'll just repeat that order again. So Simul, why don't you start?
Okay, was this a specific type or?
This is the one from your perspective of a con that you did not run. And I actually want to point out, because the fact we were all con staffers, we view cons differently when we go to a con. Even if it's a con we're not running, we're sitting there, and whenever there's a fire happening, we were like, we could easily jump in there and just save the day and help them out. So we have a very different perspective being attendees at cons.
Does anyone else who staffs cons get anxiety being at a con you're not staffing and being like, what do I do with my hands?
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes.
Actually, one of the funniest situations was there was a con bruncheon at one of the cons I was at.
Bruncheon is not a word. I'm calling you out on that.
Okay, well they had the heads. They invited the heads of all these different cons for a lunch meeting, and the walkie-talkie went off, and everyone stood up.
I love that. That's
Uncle Kage was there, and Uncle Kage, who runs Anthocon, was like, "Okay, chill, everybody. This isn't our con. This isn't our problem." And everyone sat back down. That was funny. We all jumped up at the walkie-talkie.
So reflexive.
I don't know if that's muscle memory or PTSD.
I think
a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Both. The answer is both.
All right. Well, yeah, that is definitely true. It's way different when you're attending a con versus staffing it. The experience is different. Like I was saying, me personally, just after staffing cons for so long, it feels kind of weird when I go to a con and I don't have any specific responsibilities. Same thing though, when I am staffing a con and everything is going too well, I'm worried about what fires are going on that I don't know about. When nothing's going wrong, you think something must be. It's pretty crazy. But one con that we had a sort of a weird experience, you and I, Choco, because we were both there. And this is a very large, Comic-Con type event in Seattle. And this particular year, what was that? That was last year?
And I will just say it's run by a company that rhymes with Need Stop.
Yes, this is correct. Anyway, people tend to have some issues with Need Stop sometimes, and they've got their own philosophy. But what was interesting about this con was originally run by a local group, and they got bought out by Need Stop. And then a bunch of changes got made. One really weird change was that we showed up and they had security, like airport TSA style security, just to get into the convention center. And I don't know if that's just because of how big the event had gotten that they just wanted to be more careful. It might have been related to, I almost want to say there was some sort of threat made against
Well,
a different event before.
I know Boston Comic Con was another con that had to start doing it because of the Boston bombing.
Was it? That was many years before.
Yeah, that was many years ago, but Boston cons now have to do this, so I guess other cons adopted it.
Oh, is it like a municipal thing?
Yeah, I think
required?
so. And I will have to say that that was hell because I was vending at that con you're talking about, and I had to take all my vending stuff.
And it was annoying. So here's the thing: they do the security, and you might think, well, gee, that's great, they're being responsible, but there's plenty of criticisms about that. The whole metal detector thing, waiting in line, the wave, the X-ray, all that. There's a term some people use called security theater, which is where you put into place these measures that objectively don't really do a whole lot to actually keep people safe, but it makes you feel safe because it looks like they're putting all these measures into place. That's fine and good. And, it was easy enough for you and I to deal with it. You a little less so because you had all your vendor stuff that you had to bring in. Though luckily they did give us priority access for having the panel speaker badges. But what was really awkward about it was for me, like I said, it was kind of fine, but for anyone in a wheelchair, anyone with any kind of ADA issues, or just any sort of disability, it must have been a nightmare. There was a point, Chaka, where you and I went out through one door and we were like, oh wait, this is the wrong way, we got to go back. Person at the door stops us, won't let us go back in. The only way to get back in is to go around the entire block, which these are large city blocks in the middle of downtown Seattle. Go all the way around and go back in. And I think he ended up letting us in because we were kind of like argumentative about it a bit.
We pointed out that it would be really horrible for like a handicapped person to have to go all the way around the block just to get back in.
Because they didn't have signage or anything that indicates like once you pass this point, you can't come back. And there's things I love about larger conventions that they don't have the same feel as a small one, and vice versa. I love small, locally run, fan-run conventions. I also love bigger events, but for different reasons. It's a very different feel. And if you've only been to one type of con, I suggest you try and branch out when cons come back. But the bigger cons, especially the ones that are run by sort of the more corporate groups, they tend to be less accessible in terms of like getting to talk to the people in charge and giving real meaningful feedback. There's a lot more bureaucracy involved, and it's just one of those things where it felt impersonal, and it felt like they hadn't really considered the real impacts and that they were just trying to check a box. Like, look, we have security, we're being safe,
That's actually what I point out in my con history book too, because a lot of these big cons, they're so big, they could ignore all these little issues that if it was a small con would be like called out and drama filled. The fact that these large cons can ignore it is just crazy.
They can absorb the criticism, and it's less just having such a larger base of people that come every year. The feedback you get is from a smaller portion. It's not as good a sample size. So maybe that plays into why that feedback isn't really taken into place quite as well. But, there was the same convention center held a giant, and this one I will say, because we're not talking about it, SoccerCon, one of my favorite conventions of all time. And the reason I've never been to BabsCon, because they always overlap, unfortunately.
I just want to beep anyways.
Okay,
and I think you're running too long. So
fine. Anyway, they didn't have the security. They didn't have any issues, but it's just weird when cons do that kind of thing just from being so big.
All right, Charlie, you're up.
So my best horror story as far as a con that I wasn't running at the very least, I was at a convention, and this really wasn't the convention's fault per se. Well, not at all. It wasn't the convention's fault at all, but there was some very, very, very bad weather where this convention was happening, and the hotel that we were staying in started to flood a lot.
Okay.
And the initial room that Michelle and I were supposed to be staying in, we left because we were supposed to have our own room, but they ended up, for whatever reason, I guess, putting us in a room with somebody who love him to death, but he is very well known for like snoring like a chainsaw. So we ended up going to someone else's room, and that person's room ended up flooding so bad that just like one side of the room was completely unusable just from the rain that was coming in. But then the other side of it, so this is one of the hotels where each room has its own individual like air conditioning unit, which is most of them, but still. And this one, I don't know. I don't know about air conditioning units. I don't know how this happens, but this one, the air conditioning unit was just pouring water out onto the floor. And so there was like a 10-foot circle like around the air conditioning unit that was just like the carpet was just like like it was just soaked. And so it was just a really awful experience as far as like the hotel, like staying in a hotel is concerned. Yeah, that's probably not as interesting of a story as some of the other ones that are have been said and will be said. But yeah, that's my best non-con that I ran horror story. So yeah.
All right, perfect. Midnight, you're up.
Okay. Let's see. So this one is a little interesting. It is I watched this convention begin. I knew tangentially I was around the people who started it from the very beginning. I kind of heard whispers that it was starting, and I had briefly met the people. It is something that, how do I word this? One of the people involved was very, I don't know if they are still part of staff, but I was originally going to join staff with this group. This person who was with me had was very, very volatile sometimes. There was an incident in which I was driving to go meet a group of people, and I was with this person and one other person, and we were just having a conversation. The person decided that they did not like the conversation anymore. It was about Pokemon, I think. So they turn on the music, turn on to some heavy metal song, pump it up to full. Okay, sorry, I'm having a conversation here. No, metal music up, bass blasting. Okay, a little weird. This person starts speeding and starts weaving in and out of traffic. Mind you, this was part of it was semi-business trip that we were all making together. So now I and this other one person they seemed fine. They were playing Pokemon Go on their phone, so they didn't seem to notice, but we were speeding, very much speeding, on the highway, weaving in and out of traffic. Turned out all right. Nobody died. We got back to the convention center. The second person that is involved, one of the other people who's involved, tried to seek favors from a friend of mine who was on staff at the time. Upon being refused, this person forcefully resigned my friend. And it was very strange because I was kind of around from sort of the beginning. I was around before I knew that these people were going to be involved in said con. So I was, watching them almost grow in terms of horse fame. So, they were originally very mellow people. And as soon as they started being invited to staff dinners, as soon as they started being involved, you notice kind of this little posse form around someone. As soon as that happened, that's when these incidents started just boom, 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 started queuing up. And to this day, there are still things happening around those people. And I can't go into any more detail without revealing the convention.
I know you just said you can't go into more detail, but what the heck does seeking favors? I'm sorry. I'm so curious. Can you say anything more on that?
Um,
No, it's an acceptable
favors?
answer, but I mean, just like, what the heck?
it was very bad. It was very bad.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
I believe that.
the power dynamic and pressuring my friend.
why are people terrible?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
All right. Well, all right. Let's move on. Bolt, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm fortunate that I haven't had really too many bad experiences as a non-staffer. I don't know if that's due to me staffing most of the conventions I've been at, or just like taking things in stride. But one of the very first conventions I attended, I'm trying to not name it, back in, I think it was 2014 or 2015, like one of the very first ones I attended. The worst thing that happened to me is one of the staffers on Sunday was like really, I would say, impatient, rude to me when I asked a question. I asked a simple question. I think I asked where something was, and they're like really kind of rude. And that was like the worst experience I've ever had. And back then I was like, wow, how dare he? And I brought it up in the feedback panel. I was like, how dare he do that? I'm a paying attendee. And, you know, how dare he speak to me that way? They should have better training for their staff. Now, of having staffed a couple conventions, I'm like, I understand. Wasn't the best way to handle it, but I understand. It probably didn't get that much sleep that night. But that's like the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Other than that, there's like a bunch of amazing things that I've seen. Now that I've staffed, I can kind of see like where some things might be going wrong. Like, oh, this isn't working right. I wonder if something's happening behind the scenes. But nothing that's affected me as an attendee. I'm fortunate.
That's good then.
And that's always good.
You had a lucky break.
It is true. If your staff, or if you're not staff at a con and you go there and you think everything's peachy and everything's running smoothly, it's not. You just don't know about it.
But that's the impression we staffers at least are
Yeah.
trying to get across to make sure it runs smoothly for everyone. Even if it doesn't run smoothly for us, as long as the attendees and the vendors and the panelists and the guests are happy.
Yeah, and that's one of the most grounding things is I'll be panicking at con because everything's on fire running around. And I've had this happen where like someone will just stop me as an attendee and be like, hey, I'm having a great time. Thank you for doing this. And that is just like, that's fuel.
Love
right?
it when that happens.
Yeah.
Literally, the very first secret that every first-time staffer learns at either Windy City or Ciderfest or whatever is that every con, no exception, all the time is at least a little bit on fire somewhere. Sometimes literally. It's the staffer's job to keep attendees from knowing about it. That
The
is,
show
this
must
is so
go
true.
wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Screw Loose, you're up next. All right, is he muted?
He's
The
muted.
muted screen.
Okay. To be honest, the only convention that I was privy to, that I wasn't working, that I was privy to a catastrophe, is the Con of Dreams. This was a convention that happened out in Las Vegas. I'm sure we all know this convention.
No clue what you could be talking about.
No. As a vendor, I got out there. I paid for the whole staying at the hotel package. It was like a whole deal. And to say when I got there that just flags weren't just flying, it would be an understatement. They didn't have my badge. They didn't have they printed out this funny money that was supposed to entice people to buy stuff. They were making promises that just didn't. It sounded very Vegas, these promises, and they were just too high. And the long and short of it, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know of this convention, there's only been two conventions that happened in Vegas. Go look them up. And that's really the only bad thing that happened, that I wasn't staffing, because I don't have the money. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I don't have the ability to just go to conventions anymore. Little people, they require much attention.
I actually want to point out that there is for some reason a Vegas PonyCon curse. Like, you never see a PonyCon happen at least more than once in Vegas, and there have been 3 attempts at a Vegas PonyCon. I think there might be a 4th, but we'll see.
Don't get me
I should
started.
start another one.
One day.
Don't get me started.
All right. I guess while I'm telling my story, Simul, how about you open the question section and start picking up some interesting, I guess, suggestions?
Yeah, sure. So if anyone has prompts for us, wants to know more about specific areas, go to neural net stage questions. I think it's open. If it's not, I will open it now. Right. It is not, and now it is. So go ahead, put your questions there rather than in the regular neural net stage chat, and we'll see them there.
Okay, so I'm trying to think. I guess I could tell about the 4 cons this year that asked me to be a guest at their con, and for some reason dropped out. I don't know why 4 cons did that to me this year, but I'm actually going to talk about a situation I had with a really, really weird. As a vendor, I guess, if my horror stories are not from a staffer perspective, they're from a vendor perspective. So I was vending at a large pony convention, and I was selling my tarot cards, and I was down to 1 deck left, and this
I know this story.
Lady went up to me and was interested, and she's like, "Oh, you have the tarot decks?" I was like, "Yes, it's the last one. I guess if you're interested, I'll give you a discount on it, since it was partially open so people could see which cards were inside." And I explained to her that it's because most people are used to the more modern tarot. I designed my deck based off more medieval tarot, and she says she understood it, since I guess she was a practicing Wiccan. So she bought it. I was like, okay, perfect, happy customer. 15 minutes later, she comes back to me and is like, "I want a refund." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You're missing 4 cards from your deck. I want a refund." I was like, "Yes, those 4 cards are in the modern tarot. They're not in this old version of the tarot." She's like, "I don't care. I want a refund." I'm like, we're not Walmart, right? We can't just randomly take refunds because you're not satisfied. And she had a giant commotion, blocked my booth from other people trying to come see me. I think eventually one of my staff friends saw it and tried to get security to come, but by that time I just ended up I wanted to make her go away. So I was like, okay, well, you already opened this card deck. You already touched all the cards. I know, I'm not sure I could give you a full refund for this. And she said, "Oh, just cleanse it with moon juju." I was like, "What?"
I got a bottle
with
of that
moon
right
juju.
Yeah.
Yes, that old thing.
So apparently, if she
brand.
put her grubby hands on every single card, cleansing it with moon juju is the way to go. But anyways, I gave her a refund. She stormed off. She ranted about me on Twitter. Luckily, another attendee saw the entire commotion and bought the deck because he wanted the card deck anyways. So
I'm sorry, you gave them a refund, and then they complained about you on Twitter afterwards anyways?
That's why you don't give a refund.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're going to bitch about you anyway. Either way, they're going to moan and bitch and moan. Don't give them a refund.
Yeah, so I think that was one of my craziest experiences. And since TJ Pirate Dash is in the chat, I can't. Midnight story reminded me of the TJ driving at TrotCon story, but I guess I can't tell that story because he's going to listen to it. All right,
TJ.
Boy.
Yeah.
All
For the
right.
record, Kroger Moon Juice is way better than the Great Value stuff. Don't get
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, you have to. You have to buy brand name. You can't get the generic stuff.
Yeah.
Can't get generic moon juice.
Yeah, the no name in Canada is pretty good though.
Right. So, Simul, do we have any interesting prompts for
Yes, we
us?
do.
And we're
And
going
I
to make
think
this a free-for-all, so anyone's free to chime in if you guys have any stories relating to this.
So I think this is a good one to go with because it kind of follows the story you just told. And this is from Chompy the Diamond Dog. Who's the biggest Karen that you have dealt with, or what are your experiences where you've had to
I
do
need
Karen?
buzz. I said TrotCon, so I need to hit the buzzer.
Oh.
All right.
Sorry, you have to eject yourself from this call.
Rip.
So other
Okay,
Karen
Well,
stories.
I guess the Moon Juju would be my Karen.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm asking this one.
Does anyone here not know what a Karen is? First off,
I have a Karen story.
I think
Wait!
Okay.
I think there was a head of some pony streaming broadcasting network who had to be ejected from one of the cons that I was staffing on, but we won't name that person. So yes, what was your story?
Who are you addressing? Did anyone have one?
Who's the one who said I had a story?
Screwy.
I have.
Yes, go.
I have one. Okay, so this is before the convention came. This particular vendor really didn't like that I said no. Their art consisted of records that were that were melty kind of thing and made into bowls, and then had really sloppy cutie marks drawn on them. Now,
To be actual like vinyls, like 12-inch vinyls.
like
Okay.
real vinyls, like I mean, it could be a thing, but not for the con that the size of the con we were at. So when I said no, I was very polite. He came back and kept coming back, shooting me emails that there's this big conspiracy. Now, there's a reason why I said no, outside of the fact that the art was iffy. They had a meltdown the year before because nobody bought their stuff. Nobody. There were some apparent. I was told this was, and the reason why the reason I was told this is because that was the year that my son was born in 2016. I was told that he had pity sales to other vendors. So he kept saying that there was this big he's sending me emails, this huge conspiracy that nobody liked him, and that I was controlling the vendor hall. Sure. Needless to say, at some point, the moral of this story is at some point you just have to say, okay, there's nothing I could say short of yes, you can vend with us. So I'm just gonna go block. That block button has a phenomenal 100% effectiveness, and it will save your sanity.
And I'm sure you're talking about another vendor than the one I have in mind, but I've seen vendors exactly like that. Think that there's a conspiracy.
Well, there's that other. Now there is that other vendor that I think I'm on the same wavelength with you.
I don't know. There's another vendor, and I think he might be in the chat. They might be in the chat, so I'm not going to talk about them either.
Screwloose part of the Horse Illuminati confirmed.
All right.
Once again, I'm really looking forward to the after panel call.
All right.
I have been 6 conventions, so.
Any other Karen stories before we start making this a vendor nightmare chat?
This is okay.
Vendors
so
probably have it worse than everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. This is a bit of a rough one. But we had a family that attended a con. I'm not allowed to name them. And they claimed that their daughter was ill. And the email that the con received was, our daughter is ill. Can we please have free passes to the convention because she really wants to come and we don't have any money because we're paying for all our medical expenses, yada yada yada. Okay, sure, no problem. They show up. What do you mean we have to pay for autographs? Could you please do something about us getting free autographs because our daughter is ill? I'll talk to them and see what we can do. Of course, all the guests of honor were like, oh, of course, yeah, sure, no problem, absolutely. What do you mean we have to buy a ticket for the gala? What do you mean we have to buy a ticket for the VIP cocktail hour? What do you mean we have to spend money on any of these things? Because our daughter is ill. Like, I get it. Like, I get that you're like, if your child is not doing well and is in a situation where they're not doing well, like that is bad, and you want them to have like the best experiences that they can have. Don't use that as a bargaining chip, you know, to like try and get free stuff from events that are just trying to get by. You know, it's so that like I said, that was a rough one. But you know, because it's just like the emotional leverage of the situation that was put on the convention kind of sucked. But that is the most Karen thing I have had to deal with, aside from the dude at a convention that bought a weekend badge, claimed that he was only there on Sunday, even though he very much was not only there on Sunday, and wanted a refund because he only used his weekend badge on Sunday, even though he wasn't really only there on Sunday. Yada yada yada. Anyways.
Okay.
Lovely.
Let's see. I could
That's rough.
I could think of another one, and this is one that I do not want to name just because so the Karen was kind of the VA guest of honor at this con, and I don't want to name the VA because I think maybe they didn't see it come off this way, but the VA came up to my booth and was like, "Oh, can I get 7?" They pointed to their character that they voiced and said, "Could I get 7 of these badges? I want to give it to Kids for Charity." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that should be fine." Then the VA came back later and it's like, "Oh, can I get another some more free art to sign and give to the charity?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And then the VA came back later and with their handler and said, "Oh, my handler has been so great this weekend. Could I get one of your tarot decks for a discount for them?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. Because I respect the handlers." And then after all this, after getting all this free stuff and discounted stuff from me, didn't really say thank you or anything, basically had a giant bag of trash and said, "Could you throw this trash away for me?" Assuming that I had a trash can behind my booth. I'm like, "No, sorry, there's no trash cans." Like, "Oh, can't you just take this from me?" I'm like, "No, sorry, there's no space back here for the trash." So I'm sure this VA didn't think they came off this way, but it was just a weird experience that I had to deal with. So.
That's a weird request to ask of a vendor.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
I understand the donations for charity, but the asking to throw away trash was.
Yeah, I was talking about the trash
Donate this
part.
to charity.
Yeah.
All right. Simul, any more prompts? Any other interesting prompts?
So the other questions, we have a few, but they're not really so much nightmare stories. It's just kind of more general. But we can do
some
that.
Lighthearted stories too.
Sure. Bravery asks, "What do you plan to do at your first con back after COVID stuff is all over?"
Cry. My answer is cry.
No.
At opening ceremonies, I am going to look out at everybody and I'm just going to cry. That is not so much a plan as an expectation, but yeah.
40 tears shed, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
like
I think
everybody.
I'm kind of in the same boat. It just the fact that, and obviously like we're not out of the woods yet with the whole COVID thing, but just the fact, I mean, I feel like this event is really a testament to the fact that like people are still interested and, you know, they want the scene to come back strong. So like that kind of support is really appreciated. I definitely understand that sentiment. And it's thanks to you guys watching. If you want cons to come back, support them, you know, throw whatever you can into supporting those events. Cause a lot of cons are kind of running I won't say a lot, but it tends to be that like every year it's a hit or miss thing, and at any point in time, something could happen. It might not come back next year. So,
Oh yeah, like
keep that in
the
mind.
fact that a lot of the cons that were canceled this year haven't, bellied up is like pure luck. Like I remember back when COVID
Force majeure
started getting big and everyone on Twitter was like demanding these cons officially canceled, demand these cons canceled, not realizing that behind the scenes are all these contracts that cons have to deal with that they can't just outright cancel, or else they'll be breaking contracts and then they'll be out a lot of money and not be able to come back for next year. So yeah, so a lot of props to the staffers who had to deal with all of this stuff, though hopefully it weeds out some of the bad cons. That's all I'm going to have to say.
Yeah, please don't take your cons for granted. I'll be crying and hugging everyone whom I haven't seen, all my friends, and just crying.
I'm willing to bet there will still be a lot of masks, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think that's
true.
going to carry forward for a while.
Oh, well, Simul, this is the one thing we could review. We were planning to host a Scientology themed room party.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, it was going to be all decked out. I think Fiero was going to dress up as a secret officer. You had to have the right Thetan levels to come in. There will be like Scientology propaganda videos everywhere, and we were actually going.
You're weirding people out, Choco.
We went to a Scientology organ at the convention center to get all these truth about alcohol pamphlets. Just to.
Yeah, there's a story where Choco and I and a chair of another big pony convention went to a Scientology org just for fun.
Well, it was because I was staying over at your place. I as a joke, I downloaded the Scientology TV network.
Yeah, I on my Amazon Fire Stick, I look and suddenly I'm like, why is Scientology network on my Amazon?
And we ended up spending the entire night watching all these Scientology propaganda documentaries, and you really wanted to try out an e-meter. And I was like, oh, well, your concierge friend lives right across the street from the Scientology org. So we went there the next day, and we actually got to try out this e-meter, which is just a primitive lie detector.
So, oh gosh.
It's weird. Okay, if you guys don't know, Scientology is at a lot of conventions because they also run Galaxy Press, which is L. Ron Hubbard's science fiction line of books. You see them at a lot of like Comic Cons and sci-fi cons, but it's all there just for recruitment. It's kind of crazy.
What?
Yeah. they trick. They trick artists. They have like a award ceremony where they try to trick artists to win these awards. You get a free trip out to Hollywood, you get to work under Neil Gaiman and all this stuff, but it's all just a scam to promote Scientology.
Thanks for coming to the Scientology panel.
All right.
No, I did get an application from David Miscavige. I wonder who that could have been actually.
Okay, I guess if there's any more, check if there's any more prompts. If not, if there's any stories you guys want to tell, quick bite stories, any quickies that you guys wanted to get out, let me know. We could kind of hear them.
I have one from Kibby addressed to Midnight, but I'm sure it could apply to anyone else who's vending. What's the most awkward question you've ever had at a vendor table? That's appropriate for the panel, maybe.
Yeah, gotta filter them. Oh, so many. There's no way I could keep track of that. I've had some people almost like Karens go up to me and ask, how borderline anything I will go, only to try and when I'm midway through the commission start hinting at, I would like see my character would make it worse and worse and worse by the second. Oh geez, I don't know. So many. So every bad thing you can imagine has been said to a vendor.
Hey, can I talk to you about something for 40 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me talk at you.
Yeah.
That's
have you heard of Bad Dragon?
Like, and I have done this before because I've had so much people, and it's not just bronies, but it's also furry cons and stuff, where people will come up to the booth and tell a detailed backstory about their OC, and it's like, why? Like, I don't need to hear this. It's not necessary for commissions.
Anyone had theft from their table? That unexpectedly happened to me at a Canadian convention, but it was a little girl who didn't know any better, so I felt so right.
Well, we
and then she gave it back.
We thought it was a mistake, but then another plushie booth also had a plushie store at the convention. I remember that.
That was weird.
So maybe it was accidental. I don't know.
And this was a family that wasn't really part of the con. They just saw it through the window and came in. I don't even think they had a badge. And this little girl just steals a plush off my table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did have like it wasn't a question, but I did have some attendees come up to me and was like, "Oh, we thought you were white, or we thought you were a girl."
What?
Oh, you know what?
It's a weird thing to say.
I had someone come up to me and say,
Oh my gosh, you
"Oh,
can't
you're
ask
Bolt."
people why they're white.
Oh gosh, I've had someone come up to me and say, "Oh, you're Bolt. I thought you were black." Because they were confusing me for someone else, actually.
Speaking of Bolt, good thing you chimed in because you were telling me. I'm not sure if you could tell it, but you were working for a Pacific Northwest furry convention. Didn't something happen there that you said was kind of crazy? Maybe you fill us in with that.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I've never seen this before at any other convention, but the chair for this particular convention in Portland, this furry convention, has for some reason decided to forego what was, according to him, not officially the con mascot, but has been used in so many artworks it could become the default con mascot. And instead, he decided to substitute his own OC in all the convention artwork. And his his OC, a rat, is featured in like all the convention artwork, the postcards, the posters. If you go on social media, a lot of their posts feature his OC. And I did used to staff that convention one year. I came back as a musician. That was pretty cool. And then and then things kind of went down from the hill when this guy took over. I could go a lot more into detail about him, but he's caused a lot of staff to quit, and the general Portland furry community as a whole despises him and what that convention has become.
I'm sorry, what was this person's position in the convention?
The chair.
And this is why I coined the term Vanity Con in my book, because your con you're describing, that's not the only furry convention in the Pacific Northwest that has done something similar to having self-insert OCs and all their mascot and all the promotion and merchandise and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that and it's interesting because I think Unicon saved the pony fandom from diverging into this path because we learned to consolidate instead of having these more Vandy cons. But the fact the furry fandom, especially after Rocky Mountain Fur Cons, everyone wants to start their own furry con because I guess the furry equivalent of horse famous is Poppy Fur, and to be and if you aren't an artist or a musician, the only way to really get popular in the furry fandom is to run a con. So you saw a lot of these self-insert Vandy cons pop up because of this.
Oh, and it's not just that, like the convention has been running for a while. It's just when this particular person took over that it started to go south. It was great before that. But yeah, and I, for the record, I don't have any problem with like conventions putting, staff OCs in their artwork, once in a while they mix it up and they do like, hey, all of our staff give us your OCs and we'll do it randomly and just throw random staff OCs into
Unless
things.
I'm the design artist and you ask me to put 40 staffers OCs into a poster that I have to draw a week before the con, then
it's happened.
Not.
Yeah. But this is one person
doing
shoehorning their OC into everything. It's just like
there's the chair of the second and the third largest anime cons, at least previously. I don't know about anymore, in Chicagoland, and then runs several other anime cons in like kind of like the northern Midwestern region. Puts his name on the con book cover.
The cover?
I know exactly what
you know what?
about.
You can buzz me. I don't care. Like the guy. The guy's name is Ryan. The guy's name is Ryan Koff. He is garbage, and just he has his own Encyclopedia Dramatica page. Look him up, and you can see how much garbage he is. He puts his name on the con book cover. He runs Anime Midwest.
What's that name again?
Ryan Kopf, Koph.
All right.
Please go Google him.
Do a buzz. Give us a buzz, Choco.
Because I've also seen cons.
I didn't name it. Well, I didn't make a mention, but anyways,
like where the person who founds a con and then is the founder of a bunch of cons and starts their own, I guess, convention, the Reed Pop equivalent for running their own cons, names that names that group after their name. So
Yeah.
it's so weird, these vanity cons. It's just
no. This particular dude has been accused of like rape and like a lot of like really terrible stuff, and yet he's still in the position that he's in. All that putting aside, because it hasn't been proven in a court of law, innocent until proven guilty, whatever. This dude puts his name right on the comic book cover, like Anime Midwest, a Ryan Kopf convention, and it just makes me nauseous. It just drives me crazy. So vanity cons, I've never heard that term before. I hate it and love it at the same time.
I think I had to coin it because there's so many cons of this type that there has to be a category for them. So that's why I use the term now. So
yikes.
Okay, do we have any more prompts? And actually, Simul, since you're staff, how much time do we have for this panel?
So it's 8:45, which means we have 10 minutes about.
Okay.
We want to end about 5 before, which is what they like to switch. So yeah,
I don't think we have any panels after us.
I was going to ask, do we have anything after this?
Not in this room, but I have to go because it's closing, and I'm in that. Let's see, what else did we have? Oh, this is a quick aside. Someone asked me about that informal conservated with the map. I do have the results from that compiled. I haven't bothered to put it out yet. It's honestly not enough data to be meaningful even still. I'll put it out eventually, but it's not really all that more meaningful than the arbitrary one I made. Okay, let's see. Skypause says, I know this panel is about awkward behind the scenes stories. Does anyone have any epic behind the scenes stories? Any wins? Like really cool things that happened maybe that people didn't get to see just because it was out of the public eye? Any like really cool memories that like wasn't like a big front and center main stage kind of deal, but just like major day?
I became very good friends with Lee Tokar and Andrew Francis at a PonyCon I was coming to guest at, mainly because Lee and I knew each other from another con previously, and he was very much into Taoism around this time, and he really looked up to me as like a Taoist teacher. And Andrew Francis specifically because we got to go on to a beer factory tour because the city that the con was held in was known for beer. And both Andrew and I, we don't drink. So we just kind of bonded over non-alcoholic drinks while everyone else went on this beer tour. And I thought that was kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. Anyone else? No, nothing good has ever happened.
I spent so much time trying to think of all the convention failures and bad stories that I didn't even think of anything.
Let's do this since we have such limited time left. Sure. Does anyone have a story they've wanted to tell and they haven't had a chance to yet on this panel? Anything that needs to come out? I have one sort of awkward thing, maybe. Okay. This was many years ago. I want to say it was 2015. And at this convention, we had arranged for, we had John Delancey as a guest, as a VIP, and we also had Sherklop, Griffin and Jenny, make friendship is witchcraft. And we had arranged for them and John Delancey to do a thing together where they had written a script, and they were going to have John come in and do like a cold reading of it, essentially. And this was a premium event. This is an event that we ticketed. This was like you pay an extra $20 on top of your badge and you get to go into this because we wanted to keep it more limited. It's a bit more intimate. So it was just billed that way. There was some sort of misunderstanding and John, I guess, had not been fully informed about what exactly was going on with that. So he didn't feel comfortable doing a cold reading. If you don't know what that means, it means you've never seen the script before. It's the first time you're seeing it and you're just reading it live for the very first time. He didn't feel like he wanted to do that since he didn't know what was in there. That's fair, everything. But it was awkward because it meant that this event that we had charged extra for was not going to happen properly. And so what ended up happening was we're like, okay, we're going to refund everybody that paid for this, but we're still going to let them go into this room because instead, John Delancey is going to do this neat sort of intimate just sort of story about his own life. And I actually got to see that too. And it was actually very cool. But what was really, there was just some weird moments to it. Basically, the person who handled all of our money handed me a stack of $20 bills about this thick. to go and refund everybody waiting in line to get into the room. So they would come to the room, and I was just standing at the door like, $20, $20, $20.
Free money.
I know, it felt so weird. It was probably the most cash I've held in my hand at any one point. It was a lot.
Didn't you hold my BronyCon money though?
No, you never let me hold your BronyCon money.
I wish
I
I'd
actually
seen that
have a
line.
John Delancey story.
Cool.
Really fast.
Yeah, let me wrap this up real quick. So that was happening. We're handing out money, and at one point I have to turn around to like peek into the room or something, and I hear someone like, "Hey, Simul." I'm like, "Hang on one second, Simul," and I'm like doing something in the room. I don't remember what. I turn around, and the person had been asking me to get out of the way because I turn around and John Delancey's just right there in the doorway, and I'm like, just gonna back away. There's this kind of awkward spaghetti moment there, but you know, everybody has those.
Had a really fast John Delancey story. So this was I'm just gonna use the con's name because it's a fun story. This was at BronyCon 2013. Y'all remember when the Fire Nation attacked, right? When that happened, myself and Jessica were being interviewed by John Delancey for the documentary. We're in the extra credits thing, and somebody leans in and says, "Oh, Mr. Delancey, we need to evacuate." He turns around and goes, "No, I'm interviewing right now," and he's just like, "No." The balls on this guy. I love him.
Tell the bomb to wait before it explodes.
Yeah. The fire alarm's going off. So? And I'm just sitting there going, I love this guy that much more. But that's my John Delancey story.
Gives no fuffs.
Mad
Can I follow up with two quick stories?
Sure.
Very quick.
Okay.
We got like 4 minutes.
Cool. So real quick, I also have a John Delancey story. It's really Michelle's story, but she's not here right now, so I'll tell it for her. John Delancey was at Cider Fest 2016, I think it was. And Michelle, this was her first time being on Concept, and she was his handler, and went great and everything. But I will never forget, and she will never forget. She tells it better. But we were up in the green room, and all of a sudden, like, the door like bursts open. John Delancey, if you've never encountered John Delancey in person, the man is like 20 feet tall. Like, he is a giant man. Yeah. And he like walks in with this voice. And also, if you've never met John Delancey, his voice is Discord's voice. That's just his normal speaking voice. So you just hear the door like swing open, and like this monolith of a man walk into the room. And he just looks around. Of course, we all look at him because you can't not. And he just looks around, and he's just like, "Michelle, where's Michelle?" And Michelle's next to me. She's like, "I'm here." And he's like, "Why does it smell like gym socks in here?" And we were just all like, "We'll crack a window. Sorry."
It's too bad that wasn't recorded. Imagine the fan dubs of that, like putting
Seriously,
that over.
no. And then I have one other story. So this is a horror story that I did not mention previously. So one time, I won't name the convention, but one time I was doing this panel at this online convention, and there was a break in the panel. I wanted to grab something behind me that was relevant to something I had just been talking about on the panel, and I went back to get it. And little did I know that I was still on camera when I went back to get it. And when I bent over to like get the thing that I wanted to like bring up to like show on the panel, apparently I guess, I don't know, my pants were down a little bit. And I come back to the computer and I'm looking at the chat and everybody's just like, "Charlie, pull your pants up. Ha ha ha, screenshot. Ha ha, gonna post that on the internet. Ha ha, Charlie, there's children watching." And I had no idea, just because I just went back to get something.
Well, did you get the thing?
I did, as a matter of fact. Just because I wanted to, I like to provide stories that I have with evidence. Here's I don't know if you can see it on there, 2017 animecon.com, animecon.org, and it says on there, organized by Ryan Kopf.
Oh,
like
okay.
he's the only person to plan the convention. Is the thing that I went back to get, just to reference my relevant story. But yeah, no, my again, I won't mention which convention that it was because we're not allowed to. But yeah, one time apparently I showed my ass crack on a panel at an online convention at some point in the past. So that's
been a recent.
Okay, we'll edit it out in post before we publish.
Can I tell a quick 30-second story?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so back in 2014, I think it was 2015. Again, one of the first cons I ever went to, and my first impression of a convention. I got somehow invited to the after party. I was not staff. I was just a regular attendee, not even a sponsor. I was there for 2 days, and I got invited to the after party. And at that after party, a certain YouTuber turned furry and big fan of Zootopia. Yeah, there's like two people I think in this fandom that do that. Brought in, I'm pretty sure it was him that brought in this McDonald's burger that was in like their hotel room for all 3 days of the convention and still looked edible as if they had just bought it. And a whole bunch of community guests and VAs and musicians were all signing this burger. They like physically took out a Sharpie and signed it. And I think my signature ended up on there too. Like it got to the point where we were running out of room and someone signed the edge of one of the pickles on the burger. It was ridiculous and so much fun. Yeah, it was impressive. And that was one of my first impressions of a convention. And I was like, I got to staff this. This is awesome.
Beautiful note to end on. It's those weird stories. All right, we gotta wrap up.
End the panel. So that's it.
Thanks for coming, everybody. It's just closing ceremonies left.
Go to opening ceremonies. Make sure to check out all the vendors in the vendor hall.
Opening ceremonies.
It's a cycle. It never ends.
Started.
Closing ceremonies. Make sure to check out the vendors in the vendor hall. Thank you guys very much. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your time here at PonyFest online. So thank you.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.